Legal chaos.
Legal chaos.
Legal chaos.
Legal chaos.
Legal
Chaos. Legal
Chaos.
chaos.
It's legal chaos.
All right. Episode 6, Legal Chaos. We're back. We've made it through episodes 1 through 5. We're now at 6. And, first of all, thank you for tuning in on whatever platform you are tuning in on. And if you've got some ideas about what you'd like to hear, we would love to talk about it. In fact, this week we started putting together some topics that we thought were pretty interesting. Tony, the the world moves quickly. There's a lot of things that move quickly in this world, and sometimes it's tough to keep up, including in the law. And we started to come together and talk about some different issues that we wanted to talk about this week. But, one of the things we've asked a lot of the viewers, people listening in, comment and talk to us about what you'd like to hear about. And in fact, somebody reached in to us and they were interested about this Alani case.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a little different, a little bit off topic than what we were going to talk about, but we want to please, right?
Yeah, no, it's a good point, Nick. And, I think people sometimes everybody loves giving opinions and sometimes they're shy about asking questions. So there's no wrong question. We love some of the reactions we get, and everybody's got an opinion. You don't need to be a lawyer to have an opinion.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when the jury hears a case, they're lay people. So there's nothing wrong. There's no wrong answer. There's no wrong opinion. But one of the comments is, "Hey, you guys haven't addressed this Alani case." And what happened is this teenage gal lost her life. Apparently, she was drinking a lot of these caffeine-related product. I think it's called Alani. And apparently it's got 200 milligrams of caffeine in it. And I'm not sure what you recall what her diagnosis was. I think ultimately she had a cardiac arrest. It's essentially the
Cardiomyopathy, I think it was.
Cardiomyopathy. Basically, it was determined that she had an abundance amount of caffeine in her system. And look, it's upsetting. The coroner noted that she had an enlarged heart due to stress and caffeine overload. She was a otherwise healthy young lady and played sports, was a cheerleader, very happy. All the photos that were shared on some of the news stations that I've seen this on. Just a very, very happy young lady, and for the parents, it's devastating. It's devastating to think that in 2026 that there's a product that is sold to minors. This isn't tobacco. This isn't alcohol. It's a product that you can get at your local grocery store. And to the parents, because there's no warning to the teenage individual that's purchasing it. There's no extra warning to the parents. There's no warning labels that are on the can itself. There's no warning that was put on in front of the refrigeration cooler where they buy it. And, when you drink one of these, it's equivalent to 2 cups of coffee. So the parents are rightfully so upset and just devastated. And they want some accountability, and whether they're going to get some or not. They ended up filing a lawsuit filed this month in April of 2026, filed in the Texas State Court. The defendants include Glazer's Beer and Beverage and potentially expanding to the brand and the manufacturer. So, these issues that they've been litigated in the past. This isn't the first time where you've got a caffeine-related product. And press the pause button here for a second. We all know that if you drink too much caffeine, right, it increases, it's a stimulant and it increases your heart rate. You drink too much sugar, you're going to have some effects of that. So a lot of that is common sense, right? But that's not the issue here. It's not the issue with Alani, but just like anything else, when you create a product that's got 200 milligrams of caffeine, and the product, and some argue that the can itself, that the color, that the pretty colors to it, that it's trending, that is a product that is primarily purchased by teenagers, both boys and girls, young women and young men.
Yeah.
So, we've seen these issues in the past with Monster drinks, right? Monster was a big popular one that came out in the early 2010s, 2012s, and there was a lawsuit there. And I'm not sure I think Red Bull I'm assuming Red Bull probably had one. If that's wrong, I apologize, but
There was a Panera lawsuit
Correct.
involving like what they call like a charged lemonade.
Sure. But the ones I recall looking at this a while ago, the ones that I've seen where it involved Monster and Red Bull, and I know the Panera one is still pending, but the Monster and Red Bull, but they both settled. So we don't really know how a jury would have looked at it. So it's interesting on this case. Do I think that there's some liability? I see it both ways. I could see it both ways where part of that is you should know, as parents, you should know what type of products your kids are buying. But, most of the time parents don't know what their kids are doing. They don't probably know how many of these that she was drinking. And from a teenage point of view, and, we've got teenage kids, they don't know anything from anything. They don't know what 200 milligrams of caffeine really means. I've taken a sip. I've taken a sip of this before, and it's a sugary. It's not for me.
So you're saying that the kids aren't responsible. Are the parents responsible, or is the company responsible? It's going to be one or the other.
Yeah. Look. And putting my parent hat on and using the emotions of it and try to morph that into the legal world. I do think that there's responsibility of the corporation, and especially if it comes out that there's no warning labels on this, and we are marketing. Now, if it comes out through discovery that they have a marketing team, and our demographics to sell this product is ages of 14 and 22, and that comes out on discovery, well, they're in trouble. If we're going to say we're going to market this to teenagers, and again, I don't know if that to be the case, all right, but I know it's a popular drink among teenagers. But if it comes out during discovery or during the discovery phase that somebody that they've spent millions of dollars to try to advertise and promote this to teenage kids without putting a warning label, then absolutely 100% liable.
See, I don't.
100%.
I'm going to tell you something. I got a problem, and I'm a parent, and the issue here is that there is responsibility that the parents have, and I feel like I'm a pretty educated guy, and I can tell you about a year ago, when my children were looking at different energy drinks, and I started to look at energy drinks, and the one thing that caught my eye was I didn't want all this sugar. I didn't want to give all this sugar to them, right? My concern wasn't so much the caffeine, it was the sugar. And I can tell you that we landed on Alani at our house. And not only did we land on Alani at our house, we are the family that started to look for inexpensive places to purchase Alani. We're getting it on Amazon, on a regular basis, and it's coming to our house. And the reason it's coming to our house is I, as a father, started to look at it. I wasn't thinking about the caffeine, my man. I was thinking about the sugar because I was looking at all of these other options. And in my mind, I was thinking, this is the best option for my children, right? And so now I'm going to take a position that sounds very cold, but I think it's a more of an unbiased position because it's not my child that died, right? And it's tragic. But if I were to look at this and I would say to myself, you know what? I'm a pretty knowledgeable guy. I went out and I did some research and I chose to bring Alani into our house, and I've got it in a refrigerator at my house where my kids are drinking it.
Sure.
And they're grabbing one in the morning when they go. They're grabbing one before they go to practice. And so I've made that decision. If my child had been this person, I would be devastated. But I would be devastated. I'd be looking at myself in the mirror because I misjudged, in my mind, the dangers of the caffeine. I disregarded those myself. If you were to ask me, Nick, don't you think that it's not right to give 200 milligrams of caffeine to children, drink after drink after drink, and don't you have any control at your house? I'd say, Tony, you're absolutely right. I've got some responsibility. And I get it. I understand. Hey, you know what? They're marketing it. Their target model, they're looking at kids. They want to give it to kids. Their market's kids. It's not me and it's not you because we don't like the flavor of it. But we got caught into it. I got caught into it.
Yeah, but if you've noticed, and again, not to pick on you and your family, but you wouldn't, if you noticed that one child is drinking more than what he needs to be drinking, you would say something to him.
You would think so,
right? But this isn't. But this lawsuit isn't about your situation. This lawsuit isn't about a parent say, I'm going to bring this home because ultimately I don't disagree with you. 200 milligrams of caffeine, 2 cups of coffee. That's not a whole lot, right?
That's pretty standard for energy drinks, actually.
Pretty standard. The issue is the fact that somebody's drinking 6 or 7 a day. And the problem with that is, okay, well, this is a safe way, as you said, Nick. It's healthy, relatively healthy because it doesn't have the sugar.
Yeah.
It's relatively healthy because it doesn't have the sugar. But everything in moderations. And the issue here is that every teenage kid has a credit card. Every teenage kid has the ability to go to the gas station. They're driving. And they can go
grab one,
and they can drink 5 a day. Without, if you've noticed that you're buying a case of Alani at your house and within 3 days they're gone, you're going to say, wait a minute. Okay, let's take a step back. Who's drinking what here so we can figure out if there's too much caffeine that's going in your body.
Yeah.
That's a different story. What this lawsuit is trying to raise awareness is for situations where kids are going to the stores and constantly buying and constantly drinking and not being educated enough. Now, part of that, I agree, part of that is, okay, well, the parents should know what their kids are drinking, but we don't see our kids most of the day. I mean, everybody's got a work schedule, everybody's got a school schedule, everybody's got an activity schedule. So if it comes out that these drinks were marketed to teenage kids, then I have a huge problem with this.
Yeah.
I have a huge problem with this. And quite frankly, if this suit follows all the other caffeine-related products that are always targeted to teenagers,
Yeah.
then this is going to get settled before it goes anywhere. Because nobody wants testimony. Nobody wants testimony because it's a fact that the cause of her death was related as a proximate result of having too much caffeine. Nobody wants this to go to litigation. And unfortunately, we're never going to see how the courts feel about it because it'll get settled, it'll get mediated, and it'll be done.
Yeah. You know what? I was back at one point in my life when I was going to Las Vegas a lot.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
You sure you want to share?
I'm going to share this
right
because I
now?
remember one night I'm out with my friends and I'm pounding vodka and Red Bull.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I don't know how many I had, but the idea was the Red Bull's keeping you up and the vodka's,
Yeah.
and I can tell you, I remember 5 a.m. and my heart's going
How
a
fast was
mile.
your heart going, dude?
You couldn't even tell.
Exactly.
And that scared the daylights out of me. That's the last time I've had a Red Bull.
Exactly.
Nothing.
Same with the Four Locos. That was the big.
Well, that's right. Yeah. But if the cans are saying things like not for children, caffeine sensitive, product safe when used as directed, you've got problems. But I think it comes down again to this responsibility. And I'll tell you, my man, I feel a bit responsible. Obviously for what my kids, and I know I can't always tell, but if I'm bringing it into the house, then I'm going to be responsible. I don't know if I would be a good plaintiff in this case if my children were injured based upon when I'm sitting down at a deposition and they're asking me those questions. Did you do research on it? I did. Did you know about the caffeine? I did. Why did you bring it? Well, I was worried about the sugar. But you know about caffeine, don't you? Have you ever had issues with caffeine? Yeah. When?
Do you regulate the amount of caffeine that your children drink? Yes or no? That's a yes or no question, sir. Do you regulate the amount of caffeine? Of course you do.
I do if I bring it, but I don't know how many they're drinking.
Of course you do. You'll know when you bring that case home.
How many are left?
And there's 6 left in 2 days.
Yeah.
Out of 12, and you're thinking to yourself, we're drinking this too quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, this was, so this Alani lawsuit just filed in April.
Yeah.
It's going to get some traction. I'm going to be interested to watch it to see exactly where it goes. And what happens as far as these defenses. I have a feeling you're going to be right. I think at some point in time it's going to resolve itself. Getting a jury to decide one way or the other is a little bit dangerous for those manufacturers. But I want to, again, appreciate the question that was asked. I want to keep those questions coming. If you're on any type of platform that you're on, if you want to ask questions or comment, like, subscribe, all those types of things, that's greatly appreciated. We will get to these topics and discuss them with you. But I feel like I like to get in this discussion. There's a number of really, really interesting things that are happening right now. In the Supreme Court, in state Supreme Courts, and in other state courts involving some real interesting topics. And ultimately, what they all are is when we talked at the beginning, the world moves fast. What was that? What was the saying in the movie?
Bueller's Day Off.
Ferris Bueller's Days Off. The world moves fast, and you got to stay with it or whatever. Yeah. Is that Brandon? You know that?
I know what you're referring to, but I cannot think of the actual.
If you stop and look around, it's going to go right past.
That's right. The law is like that too. We've got things are moving fast, and they move fast with technology and in the law. And right now, in the United States Supreme Court, there is an argument that's going on. There are oral arguments that have been occurring this week regarding something called a geofence warrant. Let me first of all tell you what, just a real quick overview of what a warrant is. When someone wants a warrant, they have to prepare what's called an affidavit. This is a law enforcement officer that wants to go to a judge and be able to go into someone's constitutional rights. They want to search their house. They want to search their person. They want to search their phone. They want to do this. And in order to search, what they must do is they must give to a judge an affidavit that provides that judge with what's called probable cause. And here are the facts of this case. There is a bank robbery in Richmond, Virginia, and the police are at a standstill. They do not know, they don't have a suspect. And so what the police did is they got what's called a geofence warrant.
And what case what case is this for the case caption?
This is
Just Carpenter.
let me see. I think it is oral arguments, Okello Chatry's cell phone. I'll get the Supreme Court case.
Okay, there's a couple that talk about that, so I wasn't sure if that was.
Yeah, this one is ongoing right now. And I'll get that in a minute, and maybe Brandon, if you can look it up. But ultimately, they serve a warrant on Google, and they say, "Hey, we're at a loss. Can you tell us through using Google's own programming for Google phones who was in the area?" Because if you got at the time there was
Chatry versus United States.
Chatry, that's it.
That's the one in Virginia.
Virginia, that's right. And so what they're saying is, we've got all these cell phones that are around the bank.
Yeah.
We don't know who did it.
Yep.
And which doesn't necessarily give them probable cause, but a judge gives them a warrant and says, go ahead and go to this guy's house. And they go to this guy's house, and they find about $100,000 worth of cash, and they can track the cash back to the bank. And the guy ultimately gets convicted, and he's serving, I think, 12 years in prison, federal prison, and his lawyers are objecting, and they're saying that there was no probable cause. I'm just going to briefly tell you that the court decided that, yes, there was no probable cause, but that the officers acted in good faith. It's a longer conversation about what that means, but ultimately they were able to use this search, and they were able to convict this guy. But the issue here is these officers worked backwards. Instead of saying, hey, we got this guy Abboud, he's walking out of a bank, he's got money coming out of his pocket, we grabbed him, we found some of it, can we now go get a search warrant at his house? Here, they didn't have the money. They weren't even sure. They knew that the guy was around the place, and they got this warrant. And these are the arguments, Tony. And your thoughts on whether or not, and again, this is this technology, and the courts are like, we've never come up with something like this before.
It's a tough, it's a tough one to analyze because, search warrants are obtained to get individuals' Facebook and social media accounts, Snapchat. We've been in cases with that where there's an issue of messaging, there's an issue of contact, there's an issue of what's been posted when the contact goes down, and then they get a search warrant. And in fact, Facebook actually has a specific website built for law enforcement. All they got to do is get the search warrant, and they send it, and they get it pretty quick. This is interesting because this type of geofence warrant is asking the Google or different media companies to give data on devices that were there during that time.
Now, is it their private data? Do you have rights to your data on Google about where you were, or are you expecting that they get to share that with everybody?
Yeah, so Google collects information.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's two ways to look at it, and I think it's going to be a bigger issue. So everybody's got, not to try to be technical, but the way I understand it, when triangulation and issues with cell phone and trying to ping somebody in a specific location, if you have a cell phone company, you're using AT&T, you realize that every company pings off each other. You may be in an area where there may not be a tower, but AT&T has an agreement with T-Mobile and Verizon, says that we're going
all the same data.
We're going to use. Can we use your tower, and your people can use our tower? And everybody's like, we got the best tower, but really, it's all the same. It's how many users can you get at the end of the day?
Yep.
Nobody can guarantee 5 bars all the time, which is a different idea, because you're essentially saying, I want to be able to have service, and I'm using these different bars. I think that's different than the Google situation. Now, with the Google situation, everybody has an opportunity on their cell phones, and you can go to your cell phone. I can go to my cell phone right now and change two things. I can change my location and privacy settings. And I don't understand why people don't do that. Now, I get it if you want to use Google Maps to get from point A to point B, but a lot of times, and again, there's certain privacy settings, but you're constantly agreeing to share information.
Yeah.
And to me, if you don't read the fine print, I think the onus is on you. If you don't read the fine print of what you're giving up because you're so excited to get the phone, to use a device, and there's this new app, and it's really cool, and it's a privacy and non-privacy, I don't care, I'll just share it. And then 2 years later, they're using that to ping your location. You're saying, wait, I didn't give that up. I'm like, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You gave that up from day one when you didn't go on your cell phone. I mean, I can go on my phone right now, and there's certain settings. And if somebody wants to protect themselves and not share this information, I've got privacy. This is an iPhone, privacy and security settings. I can turn my location. And it says here, control which apps can access your data, location, camera, and microphone, and manage safety protections. I mean, iPhone's got it written here in their, and there's so many things that you can read through people just don't take the time to do that.
Yeah.
So to me, it goes towards, and we talked about this in one of the episodes we did about license plate readers.
Flock cameras, last episode.
Flock cameras. I mean, it's using technology that I've given up my right of privacy for that. When we talk about expectation of privacy, let's talk about the Fourth Amendment. You can't come into my house, get a search warrant. I'm not giving you consent. You can't get into my house. It's private. You can't search my car unless you see something in plain view or you have a search warrant or I consent. You can't look at my location unless I've given up that right. Google cannot give that. Apple cannot share that. Well, you've shared it with Apple. So Apple's a private company that you've shared it with. So you're not requesting privacy there.
Well, let me ask you something. Let me ask you this, Tony. I'm not law enforcement. Can I come and get your records from Google?
If you get a subpoena.
Well, okay, a subpoena to get right now, if I want to go get it, and I don't want you to know about it.
When you say Google, can you be more specific?
Yeah, so I want to know where, look, I think you've been running around with my wife, okay? I want to know where you are.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Now, can law enforcement, don't they still need probable cause to get into Google? So I get what you're saying.
Facebook.
Are we giving up our rights
That's different.
on privacy, right? Because you're using a third party like Google, okay?
Yes.
A third party like Google, a third party like a bank.
Look, email is different. Like email and messaging. Because when I email somebody, that's for me, the user, sending to an end user. When I'm texting somebody, user and sending to an end user. Now, if the end user is alleging that I threaten them, well, then that there's an issue that's related to me and that specific person, so I can understand why, and if it comes up in an issue in a case, why there's probable cause to get somebody's Snapchat information, or if there's images that were allegedly sent over and they're inappropriate images, that's a different issue because a crime's being committed. But what you're saying here, it's almost an assumption, like a hunch. I have a hunch. I don't know what's going on. I'm not alleging that there's a crime with that specific because I don't know who the suspect is, which is different than the scenario.
This is what's different about it.
This is what's different about it. In this situation, I have a hunch, and if I can reverse engineer this, and I can pinpoint 30 people, and then based upon that, I can kind of reverse it and go talk to all 30 and get some background information. That's what they're trying to do. Now, if me as a user, if I've given up my expectation of privacy by not reading what I've given up, you don't have to have your location
I get
on.
it. I understand that
And you
part.
understand there are certain apps. If I download an app and if I read something, it says we've got the right to collect your data, I'm deleting that app. That's just me.
I get it.
I'm the guy that's not allowing TSA to take my photo. I'm that guy.
So
Right?
you are agreeing with the
That's-
prosecutors who say that Chatri had no expectation of privacy because he voluntarily
That's it.
opted into Google's location history.
Yes.
Now, those that fight for the libertarians who are fighting for lack of that, they're going to say that, wait a minute, you don't have any idea, but you've now targeted 30 people
Yeah.
that were around the bank, and now you're looking into each of these 30 people, and you're getting their records without probable cause that you believe that they were involved in that offense.
It's public data at that point.
Well, that's what we're going to find out. And it's interesting that you brought up some questions. I've listened to some of the oral arguments on this case, and the lawyers for Chatri are saying, well, wait a minute, because you brought this up, and the judge, they'll say, Judge, it's like an envelope. When I put an envelope in the mail, it goes to a third party. Don't I have an expectation of privacy when it gets there? When I have this, or is it just, hey, by the way, you don't need probable cause to search it? And so these are the greater questions about where we're going with this. And the civil libertarians are going to say that these are fishing expeditions. Innocent, non-affiliated people are going to get their private records searched, and that bothers people.
Yeah, but it's not a private record.
Well, that's to be determined.
Well, see, here's the problem with how a lot of these cases work. I think to truly, the Constitution is what it is, right? The Fourth Amendment, and it's been evolving based upon the evolution of our society and how things change and technology and what have you. So in order to understand what the expectation of privacy is, you need experts. And I've always felt that way. We don't understand the science. We have cases. We hire an expert, explain to the jury. And we've won cases like that. We win cases based upon not what I'm arguing, but how the expert explains it in that field. You and I, we're trying to analyze this case. We 30, 20, combined 50 plus years. Would we call ourselves experts? I'm not sure if we can in our field, but this is all we've done.
Yeah.
We've done enough of these cases. We can analyze a Fourth Amendment unlawful search and seizure case. What you and I don't know enough about is the technology of this and getting under the hood and kind of working through the pieces of, all right, how was the technology built? Was the technology built to provide a service and to collect data? And how much data are we collecting? Because everything these days, everything that we see, everything that we do is collecting data about us.
Right.
And who gets to store that data? So data is collected. And you and I talked about this the other day about, bills and medical bills and credit. Data's collected and data's sent, so that gets monetized.
Yes.
So if Google, Facebook, or any other platform is collecting data and monetizing it from it, then it's no longer private.
Yep.
So this isn't a government and it's a private entity. And if a user, Google's not forcing you to use their product. We are so dependent on all these apps and technology that we forget half of the things that were given up.
Yeah.
And now we're saying, well, I didn't necessarily give that up. I'm like, yeah, you did.
Well,
To a certain extent, you gave it up.
Well, here's the thing. This is the problem that I have, and I keep getting up on my pedestal, and I talk to you about how upset I was about flock cameras, and I see the disintegration of our rights. In 2018, the Supreme Court made a decision on digital searches. They ruled 5-4 in favor of a defendant whose movements were tracked by authorities for nearly 4 months without a warrant.
You're talking about the GPS stuff.
Through a review of cell phone tower data.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, that's different.
Well, in 2018, they said, you know what?
You a search warrant.
But the guy's got a cell phone. It's a third party that's keeping the data, right?
Yeah.
5-4 decision, the Supreme Court there.
I remember that.
So I look at that decision and I say, I like it because I want less government. I want less review of what I'm doing. And at that point in time in 2018, the Supreme Court barely said, can't do that. You need probable cause.
Those are GPS. Those are different, though. Those are GPS devices that are essentially put on vehicles to monitor their activity.
This was cell phone tower data. And so it's still that tower. And I guess where I'm looking at it from is now in 26, 8 years later, we are going to make a decision on whether or not probable cause is necessary to gather this information.
So so these are called geofence warrants.
Yes.
That get presented to Google or whatever provider that's collecting the information.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's a warrant that they need some sort of suggestion that there's a criminal activity that's tied in to data that you have that we're investigating.
Mm-hmm.
Data that is not private. Now here
well, wait a minute. Make sure you get it. The lower court said no probable cause. They said that they did not have probable cause to go get that data.
Fair enough.
However, they fell back on this great exception that you and I talk about and hate so much, which is called good faith, that the officers relied on it in good faith. And now it goes up. So at least at this point in time in the lower courts, they said, wait a minute, you still need probable cause. You didn't have it here, but you need it. And now this is going to be like, well, maybe you don't need it. And so what these lawyers are actually asking the Supreme Court to do is to send it back so that they can make some additional arguments. But ultimately, the United States Supreme Court is going to make a decision, and how they rule is going to potentially, again, and I am always so dramatic when I say it, is potentially continue to frame this narrative against citizens' rights. And I get where you are, and I understand the idea that it's a third party.
A third party doctrine. You know what that is?
Yeah. Explain to everybody what a third party doctrine is.
It basically means no privacy once you share the data.
Mm-hmm.
Stop sharing your data. You don't have to share it. You don't have to make your social media profiles public. You don't have to share your location. You don't have to download an app that says we're collecting your information. Just delete the app. Don't use it. They're collecting the data. I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but I believe I'm a capitalist at heart. I believe that every app, every business, there's an opportunity. It is not the opportunity that they're selling you a product and it's right in front of you and it looks like it's a great product. It's all the intangible. It's all the indirect information that they're making the money on. Mm-hmm. People don't realize that.
Yes.
They'll give you all this stuff for free, and then at the end of the day, all the information they collected, it's worth billions. So, and I get that. Is it should we protect the consumers a little bit more? Should we have more laws that protect the consumers when they're not aware of what they're giving up? Most people are not aware of what they're giving up.
And most people don't read the terms and conditions for those.
Brandon, are you aware of what you're giving up when you
Absolutely
download
not.
an app?
And I think you said the key word, although it's a different application, but I kind of just operate in the good faith that they're not spying on me, or that they're not sharing my location information or what have you.
Hey, Brandon, have you ever heard of a stingray?
The animal?
Nope.
Oh, you're talking. I think I know what you're talking about. It's a tracking device, right?
Stingrays, or cell site simulators, CSS, act as fake cell towers masquerading as legitimate service providers. Ultimately, what law enforcement is alleged to do is put these in a van and they park outside of your house. And when you use your cell phone, instead of going up to the tower, you're going to their tower first.
Wow.
How do you like that? That's our surveillance. They send out a stronger signal. They can identify nearby devices. They can target with high precision. They collect data on innocent bystanders.
Hey, Nick, as you're reading through that, do they hear conversations? They get to the hear conversation? The answer is no. The answer is no.
Well,
that's private.
Let me ask you something.
We're talking about privacy.
Let me ask you something.
We're talking about practice.
When we get a guest in here from the DEA,
yeah,
you ask that question to them. You ask that question and see what answer they give you.
So do you remember
and how they answer it?
Okay.
Because what I think they're going to say is we can't talk about that.
Sure.
Now, that doesn't, are they listening in? The argument is, well, it's over the air.
No. If they listen to a conversation and they lose that conversation to investigate or to further investigation,
that's right. They can't use it that way.
That is a violation, 100% of your constitutional right of a private conversation, unless you agree, unless you know up front. Just like some of our clients are in the county jail, and then and I always tell them this, and they know it's recorded.
Sure.
And there's no expectation of privacy unless it's a private conversation that they're having with their lawyer. Right?
Yep.
We're just talking about and break it down into simplest terms. Forget the technology. Mm-hmm. You're just getting wound up because you think that society in general's given up more than what they have, and I think no. I think it's always a user fault and not being educated enough. And I think, as Brandon stated, and rightfully so, because Brandon's a great person, and he says, I'm going to believe that they're using it in good faith. And I think the majority of the public, because we have so many consumer fraud protection laws, that they're going to believe that their information, one, is protected, and two, is not going to be used to store. Now, Nick, why would Google store information, my friend?
So that they can make money. They can sell your data.
Yeah.
Right. And that might be in the fine print too, Brandon.
That doesn't bother you?
It does bother me. It bothers me like crazy.
Then you've got two choices. What's your choice?
You don't use the technology.
Mm-hmm. Or you give up your privacy.
Or you give up your privacy.
So when you use the technology, do you agree you're giving up your privacy?
So
to answer the question.
Yeah.
There it is.
Well, you give up your privacy to those companies, right? And the data that they're selling is a certain type of data.
They're private companies.
The issue that is starting to deteriorate is that if you contract with a company, okay, like for example, somebody comes to your business and they say, hey, let me give you my personal information. You give up your personal information to that company. You give them your social security number. You hate it. You go to a dentist's office or a doctor. They're asking for your social security number,
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, is that private? Is it protected? Do you have a right of privacy there?
Of course, it's medical records.
Right. Now, other companies they get it. Usually, it's not for the medical record purposes; it's for billing.
For credit. I understand.
And so they've got that. Now, what if they don't provide that information, but they provide, hey, by the way, we've got a 40-something-year-old, white man who's got dental issues. These are the dental issues. This is where he works. This is how many children he has, and this is our typical customer. And they sell that data based upon what they get from you, right? What we're still talking about is law enforcement utilizing that data that you contract with. Do they still need probable cause to come in and get it, or does they just get it turned over to them? And these are the issues that I think are being litigated, and as you and I keep going down this path year after year, we see these rights again with technology advancing deteriorating, and that's what I hate about all of it.
Yeah, but there's one thing that and I gotta make sure we agree or disagree on this aspect. Do you agree that your digital life, not you, but the general public, a digital life, there's no privacy?
Oh, absolutely. We agree 100% on that.
Right.
So even if that's the truth, though, isn't there a reasonable assumption that you do have that privacy?
No, not at all.
Well, are you talking about the privacy that they can now use that data to come into your house and search
Right.
your house?
Right. Like, I feel like if more people understood explicitly that is being used that way, I feel like they wouldn't sign up for those.
Well, they're not using it for that way. I think in that case, they're using it to create a suspect. Part of that case was, we're going to reverse engineer to see if we can use some of that information to narrow down somebody that could have been there, because we have other evidence that we believe tracks, some sort of crime, and we're trying to figure out who can we throw the darts to. Mm-hmm. Look, I agree that things are technology is moving quicker than we understand, but we are also giving up more than what we need to. And if you want your life to be private, if you don't want the government to know things and to have information about you, then stop sharing information about yourself. You can't hide behind.
I know,
You
and
can't
it's
hide behind the Constitution, where you're posting videos every day, or you're sharing your downloading apps, and you're giving up information because you trust Google. Yep.
So at some point in time, the constitutional rights are going away. I got a question for you. I'm going to ask you a joke and a question. Okay. Have you ever heard the joke? What's 1,000 lawyers at the bottom of the sea?
Yeah.
It's
a good start.
It's a good start, right? Have you heard that, Brandon?
I have. You've told me that one.
Have I told you that one?
Yeah.
Lawyers get a bad rep because when you need a lawyer, usually you are in bad shape, and so people have a negative opinion of lawyers.
Not all the time.
Not
You're in
all
bad
the
shape
time.
all the time. But,
That's correct.
For what we do, and if you're a defendant, whether it's a civil case or a criminal case, then you're
It's
not.
a difficult time in your life typically when you need a lawyer.
Agreed.
So, anybody eat king crab? Alaskan king crab?
Yeah, it's delicious.
What's going on with king crab? Do you know what's going on with king crab?
Is there a shortage? I hope
There's
not.
a shortage.
Oh, goodness.
They're dying. We can't find them. That's the similarity between Alaskan king crab and lawyers.
Okay.
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
That's what's happening.
Okay.
People may think.
First of all, that's it. That is an interesting analogy there.
All right.
King crabs to lawyers. I don't know how or
Well,
what
I love
or who, but I love the take. I can't wait for the comments on this. It's going to be the butt of every freaking joke at this point.
I love king crab, and it's getting more and more pricey. And if you read some articles, they'll say that they don't know what's going on. The water's getting warmer. They can't find the biomass of crabs, and there's a lot of panic.
Maybe they got smarter, man. Maybe they moved.
That might be it. I don't know if the lawyers have gotten smarter, but you and I have this conversation all the time. We have a law practice, and we service counties around a number of counties around where we are.
Right.
And one of the things that you and I have encountered is that there are fewer and fewer lawyers
Sure.
in each of these counties, and new lawyers aren't coming in.
Yeah.
And recently,
In fact, didn't you get a call the other day going,
I
hey,
got a call.
Can you help us?
I got a call today.
Or today, yeah. Can you help us? And tell the audience when someone is financially incapable of hiring their own lawyer, and, there's a certain threshold. There's a certain threshold of income, and if they're below that threshold,
Yeah.
and they're being accused of a misdemeanor and a felony that could potentially the court could potentially impose a jail or a prison sentence, then the Constitution says you have a right to counsel, and if you can't afford a counsel, the court shall appoint you an attorney.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about.
That's right. And it starts again with the Constitution.
Yes.
And the Constitution says we have the right to a lawyer. And we have set up in federal court and state court, local court, there are public defender offices everywhere. Public defender offices are designed to help what they would say indigent individuals, people that cannot afford a lawyer. Oftentimes, public defenders either don't have enough resources or they are conflicted out of cases because they might be co-defendants or they've represented a victim or what have you.
Or a witness.
Or a witness.
Whatever the case
right.
may be.
And so there is a program that has been in place, which is a great program. And lawyers, typically newer lawyers, can get on a list, and they're called appointed lawyers. They're private lawyers. They have their own practice. But for a number of reasons, it gets them representing people who can't afford a lawyer, who get conflicted out of public defender representation, and they get to go represent these folks.
Sure.
They get to go into court. They get to try cases.
Yeah.
They get a lot of experience, and it's a great place for newer lawyers to learn.
In fact, when you and I both started many moons ago, we did a lot of that. Part of that was to get in contact with the judges and prosecutors and get experience, and you get paid for it. It's not a whole lot.
It's not much.
It's not a whole lot.
And it's a great thing that we have, and it helps the system.
Absolutely.
But we know that lawyers are not leaving law school. There's fewer going to law school. There's fewer coming out, and there are fewer doing this type of work. Remember, when you get out of law school, doesn't mean you go and become a lawyer. There are a lot of people that go and get a law degree. They've got an engineering degree. They go into some type of engineering field. They have a business degree. They go into business. They're using their law degree for a number of things. It's not just to go out and be a lawyer. So recently, the Supreme Court of Oregon dismissed 1,400 cases because they don't have enough lawyers to represent people. There was an individual, a guy by the name of Alan Rex Roberts, charged with unauthorized use of a vehicle, possession of a stolen vehicle. These are not uncommon. They're not complicated cases. They're not complicated charges. He got arraigned and qualified for a court-appointed lawyer. No lawyers were available. He remained without legal representation for almost a year. Nothing happened with his case.
Yeah.
And this was brought to the attention. It got litigation. and the Supreme Court of Oregon said we're dismissing all of these.
They have
Now,
to.
We can't move forward. They don't have lawyers.
Speedy trial time as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got 90 days if you're incarcerated.
And so we know that members of Congress in 2025 were told that they were underfunding defense counsel. That's threatening Sixth Amendment right to counsel. We know in places like San Francisco, there's been emergency hearings. Defendants are showing up with no lawyers. This is happening everywhere. Massachusetts, Maryland, New Mexico. Lots and lots of lawyers are not available. And we have a lot of people that are not being represented. And it's not an issue that people are talking about, but it's an issue that continues to grow, and it continues to be a problem. And do you have any idea why, Tony, some of these things are happening?
Well, it's so first of all, the Sixth Amendment, your right to counsel. You have a right to a lawyer, and because of the nature of what we do, and that again, it's you're in the trenches, and not everybody who goes to law school. When you go to law school, they don't teach you how to be a lawyer. They teach you how to. We've talked about this before. Kind of read cases and the Socratic method, and think on your feet, and do research and write and all that boring stuff. They don't teach you how to be a lawyer. You get out, your first job is going to teach you how to be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And a lot of individuals, they don't go to law school to want to be in a public interest type of position because, for a lot of different reasons. So, it's a concern. I don't know what the remedy is going to be. I think if, state governments are going to have to put higher budgets to make it more attractive, right? At the end of the day, if public sector versus private sector, individuals go to the public sector because they want to get their loans paid off, and that's a quick way to do it. But then they make careers out of it, and they get burned out.
Yeah,
and there's not enough younger lawyers that are going to say, "Well, that sounds like fun. I would love to go try, 10 cases a month."
Yeah,
and handle 100 pretrials a month. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is intense work if you're a public defender. Now,
how many cases did you try when you were doing appointed cases?
At least once a month,
right?
And again, I wasn't a part of a public defender's office, but a lot of times we got conflicts, and we'd get calls and say, hey, we got individuals that there's a conflict by the public defender's office. Can you represent them? So you get appointed, and the interesting part about that, whether you get paid up front or at the back end, your case could last 4 or 5 months, and you can't submit a bill to the court. So you don't do it because you're monetarily. You don't do it because you don't get rich out of it. You may not even pay your bills out of it, but you do it because you want the work, and you want the interaction, and you want the experience, and you want the litigation, you want the action, and all those things. You got to do it for the right reasons. There's not enough lawyers to say, wait a minute, okay, appointed counsel, okay, and then you got to wait for months to resolve a case, and then you could submit a bill, and you don't get paid 30 days after that. What's attractive about that? I think what they need to figure out is how do we get lawyers who want to do that and make sure they get some payment up front, and allow them a budget to work down from. Yeah. If at the end of the day it's more than what it is, then there's got to be a way to monetarily change the system. The system is not working. It's not attractive, and people are going to law school and spending 3 years of law school and $200,000 in debt. Don't want to start a job and not get paid for it. That doesn't make any sense. No. So I think that's one of the issues. Yeah. Right. And I remember we've had issues, and this is a while ago. You work federal cases. Now, federal case is a little bit different. You get CJA appointment, and federal cases could take up to a year. I remember doing those 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. And you wait 8, 9, 10, maybe 12 months. You can do interim billing, but not, everybody does that.
You know, the problem with even with that is over the last couple of years, because I used to do so much CJA appointed work, federal work for appointed cases,
Yeah.
that I still am on the mailing list, and I get notifications, and it says, "Oh, by the way, the budget hasn't passed. There's no money to pay anybody."
Ridiculous.
And so we're expecting you to continue to go to work and do these cases, but you're not going to get paid. And it isn't a big deal if you only have one or two cases. You stick with it and you do it.
Of course.
But what lawyers are finding is that they're saying, "Wait a minute, I got to pay my bills."
Yeah, got my staff.
And I'm doing all of these other cases. I'm helping the court. I'm not getting paid. I need to step away and I need to do other things so that I can support my family.
Exactly.
But those are the issues that we have. And, you know, I think it's important to know also that the program is so important for just for the community, but it's not just newer lawyers that are on their own or doing things. I remember we had large law firms that were doing civil litigation. They were doing complex civil litigation.
of course.
And they would send their newer associates to
Yeah.
go do criminal appointed work.
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
To get the trial experience.
Exposure to the judge, exposure to the staff, the clerk's office.
Yes.
Familiarity to go walk in and walk out of that building. That's the quickest way to get into court. But that's like a handful of individuals that do that. I don't know what the budget is, and you know, 1,400 cases in Oregon, and you mentioned a couple other jurisdictions. I don't know what their budget is. Is it an issue of people population of Oregon going down and people aren't living there and they don't want to, you know, enough law schools? Is it an issue of not having enough feeder schools? I mean, we're in Ohio.
I think the crime rate is really up in Oregon too, so that must play
Brent,
into-
that's a good point. Like, is the crime rates are high? Is it not enough lawyers, not enough law schools? You know, I don't know.
So, Brandon, the crime rate's up everywhere.
Yeah.
And the problem is that you look at this issue, and it's not a singular issue that you look at, because not having lawyers to represent people can often lead to other issues. It can lead to more people being convicted of more serious offenses. It can lead to, because they don't have proper representation, it can lead to these constitutional breakdowns. It can lead to lack of access to justice. It can lead to more people incarcerated, which impacts society on so many different levels. And if you can't provide lawyers, it's not like, oh, it's not a me issue. It is a you issue. It's an everybody issue because it impacts society, and it makes society and your communities not as good.
Nick, you're a gut feeling guy. You're a common sense guy. That's what I love practicing with you for all these years. What is your gut feeling on this? Why do you think? What do you think is the common root? There's a lot of different factors, but what do you think is the common root of not having enough lawyers to do public service criminal defense work?
So I think that it's a number of things. One, when the economy's down and there aren't as many people working, there's going to be more people that need appointed counsel that can't afford a lawyer.
Okay,
So
good point.
there's
That's
that one.
Good point.
And if you've got fewer people in law school, and if you are in, population centers that aren't growing but rather shrinking, that's going to have an impact too. So you're not having, in where we practice,
Yeah.
many of the outlying counties, which are more rural,
Sure.
the local bar associations in those counties, the judges are all telling us we don't have new lawyers that are coming in and joining the bar association.
That's very true.
We don't have any. In fact, there's a county right now where they don't have a public defender's office.
Nope.
They get a budget from the state, and they have 3 lawyers that get paid to come in and do the work. 2 of those lawyers are retiring or have retired. They do not have new lawyers that want to go and do that. Either they don't have them there, or they don't want to do it, or they don't understand how it can be helpful. But it's starting to break down, not just in bigger cities, but even more it's breaking down in rural communities and farm communities and areas like that, which is going to be detrimental to those places as well. So, again, probably also a budget issue. They just don't have money.
Let me ask, and I know this. We know somebody that's kind of brought this issue up, and I don't want to go too much in the weeds of this, but you're talking about public interest position as a prosecutor, public interest position as a public defender. One's representing the plaintiff, state of Ohio. One's representing the defendant, the accused.
Mm-hmm.
Equal pay, equal position.
Nope.
Right? Because what's more attractive?
Yeah.
I'm going to work for the DA's office, the prosecutor's office. They pay better.
They're funded better.
They're funded better. There's more resources.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm going to go, I'm going to go work here for the public defender. Should they be treated the same?
Right. Well, in federal court, they are. They are treated the same. The salaries are commensurate with each other. At the state level, it's not so much. In fact, here locally, about a year or so ago, there was a lawsuit filed or a complaint filed by the public defender's office and said, hey, you guys, we're not getting paid. There's a big discrepancy in pay and bonuses, and it needs to be equal. And it's a tough argument to make because ultimately those are decisions that are made by politicians, and the politician can say, hey, we need more money to fight crime. We need more money that's going to go to the prosecutors.
Yeah, it's hard to balance that.
Hey, we need more money for the guys that are fighting for the bad guys. And
I hate the way that you just described
well, I
don't
don't like it either.
I hate the way you just said that.
I do
guys.
too. But that's saying it out loud, my man. It's saying it out loud that people don't want to pay for a public defender. They don't. They'll pay for the prosecutors.
Yeah.
And I say that not because I'm making it up, but because it's true. We know it right here. We know it in other places. If you go to those counties that don't, like the one where I'm telling you that they've got a well-stocked, well-paid prosecutor's office. It's an elected official. He's got money that comes from the county and from the state, the prosecutor, and he gets to hire people that are in the county budget.
Yeah.
There is no elected public defender.
So the Constitution says you're entitled to a lawyer. The type of lawyer you get, you don't get to select whether he's got 25 cases or 100 cases. Constitution says bare minimum you have a right to representation. So I guess it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if equal pay or not equal pay. A lot of times, and a lot of the public defenders that we know, they get burned out a little bit. That's kind of the nature of that job. And to go back to what you were saying, do we have enough lawyers coming out of law school that want to do that? The rate that we're going, no. And they're not making it attractive. Unless you go in there and say, with a passion, with your heart, saying, this is what I want to do, I've always felt this way, you may get a handful of individuals who feel that way.
Yeah.
But the majority don't.
I saw this movie. It just came out. Who's the guy? There's a movie, and I think it's like a Netflix movie, or it's on Amazon, and there's this guy who all of a sudden he wakes up and he's in a chair.
Oh, I love that movie.
What is that? And he's being tried by AI.
Oh, I love that movie. God, that was a. I mean, I could talk about that for hours. God, Brandon, what's that?
I'm looking it up.
It's on Amazon. It's got the.
He's a pretty famous. He's popular right now. He's been in a lot of stuff.
He's in a lot of movies.
Is it Mercy?
Mercy Court.
Mercy Court.
Yes.
Who's the actor?
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt.
God, that was a great movie. But you're right.
He's accused of killing his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so is that what we're doing, my man? Is we're going
ultimately, we're not going to have lawyers and
it's this AI all of a sudden, and I'm where I'm going to go in a minute, but are we going to have so maybe everybody's that's watching this are going to say, yeah, you guys are going to be replaced with
right.
AI.
If you watch that movie and ultimately you needed a human component for there to be a right thing, you can't write enough code into AI that's going to have enough human element into it. You just can't not have. We ain't going anywhere.
No.
Litigators. If you're a litigator, if you're out there and you're a litigator, you're in court.
Yes.
You're going to be fine.
But you know, Tony, this AI. People say, well, AI is going to take your job. You want to be a stockbroker, we're going to have somebody that's going to be able to take your job. If you better not do that. If you're going to be a truck driver, we're going to have a truck that's going to drive itself.
Or it's going to help you do that.
Or it's going to help you do that. And so, you know, we're familiar with the University of Central Florida. UCF. Brandon, you know UCF? You know where that is?
In Central Florida.
What a smart ass
It is really
response.
late. It's really late in the day.
It's in Orlando. It's right by Disney World.
Yeah.
And it's growing like crazy. But the reason we're talking about UCF is not because of Disney World. We're talking about UCF because there's a guy that's a student at UCF, or was a student at UCF, and this guy is alleged to have killed somebody.
2 people, I think.
2 people.
Yeah.
And
He's got a co-conspirator.
there's a co-conspirator in the case. Tony,
Yeah.
who's the co-conspirator in the University of Central Florida student accused of murder?
It's ChatGPT. It's an AI bot. It's an AI bot that was programmed to help you and I and everyone else to, fix our phones. Make a great omelet. How to get to work, or hey, I've got an issue. Can you help me with it? It's that AI that says we're here for everything. They're chatbots that are programmed to help you and I do simple things that we don't do anymore. And what did this man do? He started asking questions. Now, I don't believe that, and I think there's regulations for that. So I don't think that, and based upon what the material that I've seen, there wasn't anything that suggests, hey, how do you assist me in committing this particular crime? I don't think that's the allegation, but there's enough of a digital paper trail that where he's asking questions, and asking questions of the type of weapon. What type of weapon should he use, for a close range shooting? And then you ask Chat, and Chat says, what are you going to use it for? Is it going to be for sport? It's going to be for range shooting. Is it going to be for a collection? What do you use it for? And you keep on asking indirect questions. Ultimately, the planning, the research methods, the planning aspects of a crime. How deep do you dig? Dig in order for forensic evidence not to be found. I mean, there's a crafty way to ask questions without saying how to commit murder and how to get away with murder. That's not what was said. But without the assistance, and we talked about conspiracy before, aiding and abetting individual to commit, an ultimate offense of a criminal activity. So the, Florida's AG, they're looking at it and say, we think there's accountability here. We think that you should be monitoring what individuals are asking. And if there are red flags, you need to be able to notify somebody. You need to be able to notify law enforcement to check the actions of this individuals. Now, I get it. I mean, part of that is, public perception. We got to do something. It's a horrible situation.
Terrible.
Right? Horrible. And it's a crime that people feel awful about it. It makes your stomach uneasy. It happens right near Disney World and UCF. So people want some sort of accountability. And whether this was brought up as to, how can we hold AI bots accountable, or the programmers? Maybe it's kind of a raise awareness situation, but I don't know if you can. I think that technology, I always revert back to the laws changing, that the technology is moving quicker than the law can catch up or modify how they're going to treat it. And you and I just don't understand enough of how I couldn't tell you
How the technology works?
the technology works, You'd have to get a programmer to say this is what we spit in there. It's how the technology works, and it doesn't work that way for it to give red flags. Like, who knows, man? But I get it. It's horrible. You know, I don't know how you create red flags on everything, because you could assume somebody's trying to figure out the best knife in order to, you know, cut fruit and protein, and you can say some odd things on chat, and all of a sudden somebody's going to think you're going to murder your neighbor. It's like, wait a minute, I'm just trying to figure out the best knife set to cut tomatoes. Easy.
I want
right?
you.
It could go that far.
I want you to surprise me.
Okay.
I'm going to say something to you, and based upon where we started our conversation and the topic today, we know lawyers have a relationship with their clients, meaning that we cannot disclose anything our clients tell us.
Attorney-client privilege.
Attorney-client privilege.
Yes.
And we know that also exists in other areas, don't we?
Sure. Clergy. Psychologist.
Yep. Treatment folks, right?
Yeah.
And so ultimately,
Doctors,
right, doctors,
Yeah.
right? And ultimately, what is true across the board, whether you are a lawyer, whether you're clergy, whether you're someone who's a psychologist, psychiatrist treating someone, is this. When someone comes to us as a lawyer and they say, listen, I need to talk to you about this crime that I've committed or that I've been accused of, and let me tell you about it. We can't talk about that, right? But if that individual says, you know what, I think I'm going to go out and I'm going to do it again tonight. Do you, Tony, as a lawyer, have an obligation to report that to law enforcement?
You can't perpetuate a crime.
Right. And if priests are told, hey, look, I'm going to go, there is an out.
Yeah, there's an exception.
There's an exception. So there is a way that we keep confidences in different areas of our, in different fields that are important to us. And so here we've got AI that's run by a company, right? There's a company that runs ChatGPT. There's somebody that runs Claude. I don't know if they're all the same. I don't know. But there's a lot of different ones. Do they have an obligation when someone starts having a conversation with AI to report the person?
I think Chat actually has a policy that talks about whether there's criminal activity. I think it draws the line there, but it's difficult. We're not talking about that here. I mean, somebody witty enough can ask Chat in a roundabout hypothetically a roundabout way, all these different scenarios where Chat says, "Hey, great question. How do I get?"
They gas you up.
Hey, I forgot my key and I need to get into the grocery store, and they have a Smith lock 124 model. Can you help me get in because, I forgot my keys? Of course, I'd love to help you. Here's what I would suggest. Not knowing that I've just assisted somebody, Chat's just assisted somebody in breaking into a liquor store.
Well, and Nick, I'm pretty sure that they are OpenAI, the owners of ChatGPT. They are in court right now fighting charges, I believe in Canada actually, because somebody who did go on to commit a murder had flagged their system several months before, but they did not report that. So that's sort of what you were just talking about, and I think that's pretty interesting as well because
they flagged it.
Something the user, the future murderer, had said to ChatGPT had like sent off a red flag warning in their system, but they did not do anything with that information, and so now they're being sued for that.
So there are systems. There are ways to flag it.
Are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%. Look,
because you lose your privacy, right?
You're not losing your privacy.
Well, if you're on ChatGPT, do people think that it's a private conversation?
Let me tell you, my brother. If you're on ChatGPT, right?
Yep.
Read the fine print. All that stuff is you're sharing and you're helping create a better bot. So your search history, all that stuff, they're using it to create a better system.
Yeah.
You've lost your privacy there, brother.
Yeah. No, and we understand that. I think that that's but this is a real interesting,
Very interesting.
because if it's not we have conversations with the AI. We have conversations with ChatGPT. We speak to ChatGPT like ChatGPT is an individual. Hey, by the way, I need to book a flight to Paris. Oh, great! It's going to be a great trip. What are you interested in? Well, I'm interested in going to the Eiffel Tower. Well, first of all, let me tell you, here's some ways to get there, and let me tell you when you should go to the Eiffel Tower. So it's having these conversations with you. And so when you start to have these conversations, especially when you're talking about maybe a premeditated murder or a premeditated crime, if you and I are having those conversations, and maybe it's through an email, maybe it's, hey, by the way, we've come over. Tony's been charged with bank robbery. We get his a search warrant, probable cause. We get his devices, and we see he's been talking with Nick about planning this search about this bank.
I think they did get the search conversation. I thought they
do.
They get the transcripts.
Right. And they do have the transcripts, and they are using that for premeditation. But what I'm suggesting to you is, in the real world, if I'm having that conversation with you, there's a really good chance that I'm going to be brought into it as a co-conspirator.
Absolutely.
And yet here we are.
Sure.
And there's
really nothing.
There's nothing there. And prosecutors are not going after AI, well, because it's not a human being. They're not going after those that are in charge. And again, if it's framed properly, hypothetically,
sure,
it's maybe not sending out those red flags. But again, we're using AI here now to commit crimes.
Yeah, I think this situation is bringing everything to light. I think it's got to raise awareness, and hopefully, the legislature at every state will try to create something at least to allow, the evolution of AI to help society for the good, and to create, some sort of flag, some sort of warning system to law enforcement that we believe this person's up to no good, and that could have prevented something here. But we've always talked about the speed of technology, Nick. It's going to go quicker than you and I think, exponentially here in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, look what we've been talking about here today. We've been talking about AI moving quickly.
Yeah.
AI in criminal litigation. We've been talking about geofence, how Google is playing a role in solving murders, and is it infringing on our rights? We're talking about lack of lawyers, although it doesn't really go into kind of that corporate area. But these are all interesting topics that things are moving quickly.
Yeah.
And there's pressure in the system, there's pressure on the courts. We've got companies that are pushing products faster. We've got a justice system that's overloaded. We've got our AI that is accelerating different human decision making and influencing human decision making. They're not isolated problems. They're signals that are out there. That are suggesting a different era in what we're doing, and again, like you mentioned, and kind of the topic, things are moving faster, and we gotta keep up with it, and the courts are going to have to keep up with it.
It's about that time, Nick. You know what that time is?
Closing arguments.
Closing arguments.
Uh-oh.
And I think this week, I think the one topic, and there's two that stick in my mind, but the one topic that I think would warrant a nice debate about is this geofence warrant.
Mm-hmm.
I think you and I are different opinions on this.
Yeah.
What's your closing argument, my man?
So my closing argument is going to stay consistent on all of these topics. You're going to focus on the lack of, you're giving up privacy. I'm still focused on the government and their obligations under the Constitution. I am so concerned, Tony, that many of these legal issues keep coming up And it seems as if, because of technology or because of court decisions or the makeup of the court, that we are seeing a degradation of our rights under the Constitution. We're losing privacy rights. We're losing the rights to live in a society where we're not always being watched. And yeah, I can acknowledge that it is a trade-off. And I can acknowledge that we all have these phones that we can't live without. I can acknowledge that they have a lot of good things. What I'm hoping for in my closing argument is that the courts can recognize this, and especially in these types of issues, frame it so that we do not degrade our rights under the Constitution. And this case, this geofencing case, brings about a novel issue where law enforcement is using technology to go find people when they didn't have it ahead of time. And I think it's things that we've seen in movies, and we saw in these futuristic movies, and the future, my man, is here. And that scares me. And I may be wrong on this issue in my closing argument, but doesn't tell you that I'm not scared and I'm worried about our rights, my man.
I think you're just getting old.
I'm getting old too.
You know, part of that, and I don't mean that in a mean or disrespectful way, but you know, we're coming from, both you and I are coming from a huge generational gap between how kids are and how society is now than it was in, you know, the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And I could never imagine growing up that we'd have technology like this. I mean, Back to the Future was my favorite movie, but I'm like, there's no way that we're going to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Having one phone in the house, the rotary phone, so start over, hang up, and start over. So I think, you know, the way I see it, and you know, we're defenders of the Constitution. We talked about the essence of what the Fourth Amendment is, and really it's the protection of one's property, one's doctrine, one's domicile, right, and one's private information. And anytime, and I know you disagree with this, but the third-party doctrine is a rule that applies that you lose Fourth Amendment privacy protection when you voluntarily share this with a third party. And I believe that. I believe when you're sharing, if you want something private, don't share it. Now, you're right. You mentioned something that I do agree. It's the trade-off. You don't have to have a cell phone device that shares information. You can get a flip phone that you can use to speak with somebody.
Yeah.
You don't have to text them. You don't have to have GPS. You can buy a map or know where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to download every app that says that you can help you cook or helps you clean or makes you feel better or helps you monitor your sleep or monitor everything else that you need. You don't need that. A lot of the stuff is that we don't need.
Right.
So I submit to everyone out there that if you don't want your information to be shared or to be looked at, then stop sharing it. You know, look at your phone. Take a few minutes. You know, I challenge everybody to just take a few minutes, look at their device, look at your phone, look at your iPad, go to privacy setting if you have an Apple, and just read through that.
Yeah.
Read what you're giving up. Read what you're sharing. We all do it. You know what? It's sad to say, but I use Google Maps all the time. I know they're tracking me.
Yeah.
For that reason, but then I turn it off. So my closing argument is this, you know, this geofence warrant, you know, once you share it, once a third party doctrine applies, unfortunately, you lose your expectation of privacy. And that's the way our society is leaning towards.
Sure.
Cameras, flocks everywhere. Once you walk out of your house, unless you've got a raincoat and you're covering your face, you're really losing a lot of privacy. Now, yeah, that part of that is, you know, unfortunately losing it. Part of that is to kind of protect society as well. And we talked about, you know, the situation with the bots providing information to somebody that's committed this heinous crime. Well, at the end of the day, we want to be able to use that shared information to prevent something like that from happening. So
Yeah.
it cuts both ways. I'm not as fearful as you are, but I'm more self-aware of what I'm giving up, and I choose not to give up. And I think it comes down to the person to educate themselves.
Yeah.
When you walk in somewhere and it's giving you an option whether you want to share that information, you can choose not to share it. That's the greatest thing about this country. You have a right not to share that. And
You
that's
do.
my closing argument, my
Thank you,
friend.
my man. I appreciate it. I appreciate your comments, Brandon. I appreciate work you've done. I've got some good news. We've been doing this. This is episode 6. We have plans. We're going to be bringing in guests in the future.
To be determined.
Those guests are not going to be announced. We've got a couple of people in mind and potentially in the queue. But if there are guests that anybody would like, a certain type of individual, let us know in any, any of the platforms that you're watching this or listening. Love to know what kind of guests you would like. We've got an ability to bring in a lot of different people.
Sure.
So we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to expanding this. And we appreciate everybody listening and watching and tuning in. Until next time, for the next Legal Chaos episode, thanks very much.